If you want a phone that will make you stand out with unique features and fancy aesthetics, there's literally nothing like the Nothing Phone, whichever version you choose to purchase. And now we have the latest iteration with the Nothing Phone 2A Plus. And it's an absolute beauty, especially with this gray variant. The Nothing Phone 2A Plus features an upgraded processor powered by a MediaTek Dimensity 7350 Pro 5G, and while it has the same GPU with the Mali G610, it is now faster with up to 1.3 GHz clock speed. It also has the same 5000 mAh battery but with a faster 50 watts charging speed. And aside from that, the selfie camera has been improved now with 50 megapixels, making this an all 50 megapixel camera system. The display is essentially the same 6.7-inch Full HD Plus flexible AMOLED display with up to 120Hz refresh rate and 1300 nits of brightness. Personally, my main interest about this phone is its camera system, because camera reviews are where my channel is currently heading at, so we'll definitely check that out. But of course, I'm also going to share with you all my thoughts about this phone. So let's get into it. As always, honest disclaimer, this video is not paid, but Digital Walker provided a sample for me to experience. They will not review this video or see my script, and we'll see this at the same time as you do. With that out of the way, let's take a look around the Nothing Phone 2A Plus. Design-wise, it's essentially the same, aside from a slightly different colorway and a noticeably shiny coil at the back. The glyphs LEDs are the same, the camera bump is the same two eyes figure, and all the small details like the flash, logo, and screws are pretty much identical. Even the flat sides and curved corners still features a matte finish. What I appreciate here though, especially with this gray variant, is the transparent back with curved edges, partnered with a light gray colorway, which makes the internal stand out even more. On the left side, we have the volume buttons, and on the other side, we have the power button. Up top, we have the secondary microphone and the secondary speaker, and then at the bottom, we have the SIM card tray that supports dual nano SIM cards. We also have the primary microphone, the USB Type-C port, and the primary speaker. As for the display, we have the same 6.7-inch Full HD Plus flexible AMOLED display with up to 120Hz refresh rate and 1300 nits peak brightness. The bezels are not as thin as most modern smartphones, but at least it's uniform all around and looks perfectly fine together with the light gray frame. Now, with the dynamic refresh rate, it can automatically adjust between 60, 90, and 120Hz depending on the application. But most of the applications that I've tried doesn't support 120Hz just yet, and even some games like Real Racing 3, which supports 120Hz, only run at 60Hz, so there's that. Browsing through the user interface though, at 120Hz is a thing of beauty. Super smooth and satisfying. More on that later. Now, display quality wise, I'm quite satisfied with what I'm seeing here. The colors are vibrant with decent contrast and details, the sharpness is quite natural, and has outstanding viewing angles. It has a 700 nits typical brightness, which is enough for indoor use, but it can go up to 1100 nits outdoors with up to 1300 nits peak brightness on a sunny day. Now, the stereo speakers are pretty decent. They can get loud quite significantly without too much distortion and can fill a small room. It also has a good amount of low end for a smartphone speaker. There is not much to complain in this regard. If you're looking for an extremely compact and lightweight lens, this might be the one for you. I'm talking about Cheap, Viltrox's latest Sony E-mount full-frame lens, and it's a legitimate pancake lens with autofocus. Cheap definitely has some character to it that some people might appreciate, especially if you like nostalgic photos without the need of any filter. In terms of the user interface, we have the Nothing OS 2.6 based on Android 14, which in my honest opinion is arguably the smoothest Android OS. Aside from this phone's cool and unique aesthetics with the transparent back and glyph interface, the operating system and the user interface experience are one of its main selling points, and one thing that appeals to me the most. Just look how smooth this fingerprint animation is. It's absolutely satisfying to look at. And yes, we do have an under-display fingerprint reader here. Now, while it's heavily skinned to match Nothing's aesthetic approach, the experience is close to a stock Android, at least in terms of performance. Now, unlike the previous Nothing phones, the widgets are not pre-applied on the home screen out of the box, but of course, we do have all that here, including the Nothing X and the support for all Nothing earbuds. And the good thing about this is that you're guaranteed at least 3 years of Android updates and 4 years of security updates, and with the upcoming Nothing OS 3.0 update, expect better things to come. As for the unique glyph interface, as far as I know, it's essentially the same. We have the usual ringtones and notifications, flip to glyph for quick toggling of silent mode with lights only notifications, glyph timer, volume indicator, and glyph progress, though as of the moment, Grab, Foodpanda, Lalamove, and others are still not yet supported. And yes, we have music visualization as well if you're into that. Now, for nothing phone users out there, let me ask you this. Do you find the glyph interface feature really useful in your everyday life? What particular glyph feature do you find useful? Notifications? Timer? Volume? Or do you find this just a gimmick? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Now, before we discuss the performance, like I said earlier, let's talk about the all 50 megapixel camera system first. All three cameras on the Nothing Phone 2a Plus produce pretty decent images. Starting with indoor shots, as you can tell, both the ultra-wide-angle camera and the main camera produce good quality images, with the main camera having a bit more contrast and better dynamic range, especially when it comes to controlling the highlights. They are also fairly clean, even at a higher ISO 800 and above. Now, even though both offer 50 megapixels, the main camera is noticeably sharper and has more details, especially when it comes to textures. I can also see a slight difference in terms of color temperature here, with the ultra-wide camera having a slight tint of magenta and the main camera having a slightly warmer tone. But this changes depending on the lighting situations, which is often the case when it comes to smartphone cameras, since white balance is basically in auto mode. But the most consistent thing here is the difference in contrast and dynamic range, even in outdoor situations. What impressed me the most here is the clarity and sharpness of these images. You can definitely see every bit of detail, even if you zoom in. And the dynamic range is also pretty decent. There are no blown highlights and cross shadows, or at least with a significant amount at that. Night shots are also pretty good, but this is where we can see a significant difference between these two cameras. With both optical and electronic image stabilization, partnered with a wider aperture, the main camera produces better night photos. The shutter speed is slightly faster, but enough to minimize blur on moving objects. The ultra-wide-angle camera is good, don't get me wrong. It's just that the main camera is better when it comes to night photos. Now, while we're outside, let's take a look at some night selfie shots, both with retouching on and off. I'd say it's pretty decent. You just have to be very steady, since we're dealing with the quite slow shutter speed here at 1/10 of a second, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Selfie shots in a well-lit environment are pretty decent, as you can tell, which makes the 50 megapixel upgrade even more appreciated. We also brought this to the opening of the open source by Beyond the Box store at Green Hills Mall, which by the way, is where you can also get the Nothing Phone 2a Plus, and as you can tell, the images are also pretty good, even at this relatively low light environment. Then the day after, we spent the rest of the week at the hospital because our little boy Gio got confined with dengue and pneumonia. So here are the rest of the images and a few video clips that I was able to take while we're there. And I also apologize for my voice because I'm also sick right now, but I just want to finish this video just for you. Alright, so let's move on to the performance side of things. With the MediaTek Dimensity 7350 Pro 5G and a Mali G610 GPU, partnered with 12GB of RAM that you can actually boost up to 20GB using the extra internal storage space, performance is pretty decent. As per Nothing, it is 10% faster than the Nothing Phone 2a, with up to 30% faster when it comes to graphics, thanks to the higher 1.3 GHz clock speed of the same Mali G610 GPU. As I've pointed out earlier, browsing through the user interface is as smooth as butter. I didn't encounter any noticeable hiccups throughout the duration of my testing. And now, here are all the benchmarks that I ran using the Nothing Phone 2a Plus. As for the battery, the Nothing Phone 2a Plus features the same 5000 mAh battery capacity, but now supports up to 50 watts charging. As per testing, using the PCMark Work 3.0 battery life benchmark with 50% brightness and volume, it lasted up to 16 hours and 38 minutes, which is enough for at least 2 full days. I was also able to charge it from 10% to 88% in just 37 minutes. It trickled down from that point to 100% to preserve the battery lifespan. And lastly, for the unboxing experience, we have a nice white and gray box right here, still with the teardown packaging, and inside the box, we have a flip-out design that has a sort of thank you note on the left side, and the Nothing Phone 2a Plus on the right side, protected by sustainable paper. Then we have a USB Type-C cable, still with the transparent plug cover, a paperwork, and a SIM ejector pin, also with the transparent design. To conclude, the Nothing Phone 2a Plus offers a slew of slight upgrades. It has a better processor, faster GPU, faster charging, and better selfie camera. The question is, are all these worth the additional 4,000 Philippine pesos, at least here in the Philippines? Well, it depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from a significantly older phone and just now decided to jump into the Nothing craze, then yes, go straight to the Nothing Phone 2A Plus. But if you're coming from the old but still relatively new Nothing Phone 2A, there's no real reason for you to upgrade. Probably wait for the Nothing Phone 3 or something else. And there you have it, guys. Thank you for watching. Huge thanks to Digital Walker for sending this in. You can get this using the links below. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you appreciate this video, and see you next time. Have a good day, guys. You're awesome.